Okay, so looks like we're doing a deep dive on Bill Ackman today.
Sounds good.
Yeah, looks like you're looking for a little more than just the Wikipedia basics.
Yeah.
And trust me,
Uh,
there's a lot here to dig into.
Lots to dig into.
We're going way beyond like the typical Wall Street guy narrative with Ackman.
Right.
Think activist, investor, philanthropist, and someone who's really not afraid to stir up a little controversy,
Yeah.
ready to
Oh, yeah,
just get
definitely.
started.
I think what's so interesting about Ackman is that those different parts of his personality, like the investor,
Yeah.
the philanthropist, the provocateur, they're all kind of tied together.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they inform each other
Mm-hmm.
and they really help us understand why he makes the decisions he does.
Yeah, and speaking of decisions, did you know this guy made like $2.6 billion in less than a month by basically predicting the 2020 market crash?
Yeah.
We're definitely going to get into that.
Yeah.
But first,
Yeah.
Ackman 101,
Okay.
we're talking born in 1966, Chappaqua, New York.
Mm-hmm.
His father was a big deal in real estate.
Oh,
So maybe that's where he got his deal-making genes.
yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah,
Definitely possible.
yeah.
Although Ackman went to Harvard, not just for undergrad, but for his MBA too.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that even back then, his interests hinted at this willingness to tackle really complex issues.
Yeah.
His undergraduate thesis was titled Scaling the Ivy Wall, the Jewish and Asian American Experience in Harvard Admissions.
So even in college, he was drawn to like these potentially contentious topics.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Huh, that's
Yeah.
pretty insightful
I think so,
and maybe a sign of things to come.
definitely. And fast forward to today,
Yeah.
Ackman's estimated net worth as of June 2024 is $9.3 billion.
Wow.
He's the founder and CEO of Pershing Square Capital Management,
Right.
which is his main investment vehicle.
Okay.
But remember that real estate connection.
Yeah.
He's also the chairman of the Howard Hughes Corporation.
Right. Okay, so successful investor, Harvard grad,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're kind of seeing the family business come back into play a little.
Yeah.
But his journey wasn't exactly a straight shot to the top, was it?
No, not at all.
Right.
Ackman founded his first investment firm, Gotham Partners, right out of Harvard
Okay.
in 1992.
Mhm.
But it ran into some legal issues and eventually shut down.
Mm.
That had to be a tough lesson
Yeah.
early on in his career.
It really makes you wonder what he learned from that experience
Huh.
and how it kind of shaped his approach going forward.
Right.
So when does Pershing Square come into the picture?
That was in 2004.
Okay.
And it's with Pershing Square that Ackman really starts to make waves. You know,
Yeah.
one of his early and wildly successful moves was shorting the bonds of MBIA,
Okay.
a bond insurer,
Mm-hmm.
during the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay, for those of us who aren't finance wizards, can you maybe break down what that means exactly?
Yeah, sure.
So he was betting against MBIA, right?
Right. He was betting that they would fail.
But how does a bond insurer even work?
Well, a bond insurer, you can think of them as like a safety net for investors.
All right.
They guarantee that bondholders will get paid, even if the issuer defaults.
Gotcha.
Ackman was essentially betting that MBIA wouldn't be able to meet those obligations during the financial meltdown.
And that was a risky bet, right?
Very risky.
Especially considering how much
Yeah.
the financial system relied on these insurers at the time.
Yeah, he wasn't just going against MBIA. He was challenging a core part of the financial system.
Right.
And to prove his point, he went to kind of incredible lengths.
Really?
He spent a fortune to copy over 725,000 pages of financial statements just to prove his point.
Wow, that's
His commitment
some
there.
serious dedication.
Yes.
But he was right, wasn't he?
He was
Yeah.
MBIA's stock completely plummeted,
Mm-hmm.
and Ackman made a massive profit, cementing his reputation as an investor who can see what others miss.
But this win also kind of established his high-risk, high-reward style,
Yeah.
which would lead to both spectacular successes and some very public stumbles
Uh-huh.
in the years to come.
Right.
Okay, so we're starting to see a pattern here. Bold bets,
Mm-hmm.
deep research,
Yeah.
and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned stumbles.
Yes.
Where did things go wrong?
Well, one example is his investment in JCPenney in 2010.
Okay.
He bought a large stake, hoping to turn the struggling retailer around.
So he wasn't just passively investing.
Well-
He was trying to actively change the company's direction.
Yeah, he wanted to bring in new leadership
Okay.
and revamp their strategy.
So that's where the activist investor label really comes in.
Totally, yeah. But with JCPenney,
Yeah.
Ackman's activist approach backfired.
Okay.
He clashed with the board, and the
I-
turnaround plan failed to gain traction.
Yeah.
Eventually, he sold his stake at a loss, a very public reminder that even the savviest investors can be wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So a setback, but definitely not the end of the story.
Right.
What about Valiant Pharmaceuticals?
Ah, Valiant.
Yeah.
That one felt like a major turning point,
Yeah.
both for Ackman and for his reputation.
Valiant was a major blow.
Yeah, it was.
No doubt.
He was not only a major investor, but a vocal advocate for the company.
Yeah.
He believed in their business model, which was acquiring smaller pharmaceutical companies
Right.
and raising drug prices.
Aww.
But their practices came under intense scrutiny, leading to a Senate hearing on price gouging.
And Ackman himself was called to testify.
He was.
That had to be a humbling experience, to say the least.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, the company's stock tanked.
Mm-hmm.
Pershing Square lost billions.
Wow.
The Valiant debacle raised serious questions about Ackman's judgment and his willingness to defend a company that many saw as ethically questionable.
It's interesting, though, how a single investment can have such a ripple effect.
Right.
Not just financially, but on someone's public image as well.
It's true.
But then there's Herbalife.
Ah, yes, Herbalife.
Right.
The big one.
This feels like the Ackman story that everyone remembers.
Jeez.
It's the ultimate feud.
The feud, the drama, the sheer scale of it all.
Right.
Herbalife is definitely the saga that cemented Ackman's image as a fighter,
Yeah.
a gambler,
Yeah.
and someone who's just not afraid to go all in on his convictions.
Right.
We're going to have to dive into that story in more detail because
Yeah.
it really reveals a lot about who Ackman is and how he operates.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got the stage set.
Right.
Time to enter the ring for round one.
Yeah.
Ackman versus Herbalife.
Here we go.
You ready to unpack this one?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay.
So we got to rewind to 2012.
Okay.
Ackman publicly declares that Herbalife is a pyramid scheme,
Okay.
alleging that their multi-level marketing model is unsustainable and that it preys on vulnerable individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And to really drive the point home, he backs up this claim with a $1 billion short bet against the company.
So he wasn't just saying it, he was putting his money where his mouth was.
Right. Exactly.
But I got to ask, why go so public with it? It's not like he needed the publicity.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Ackman wasn't just trying to profit from Herbalife's potential downfall.
Right.
He wanted to expose what he saw as a fraudulent business model.
Mm-hmm.
He even gave this really lengthy presentation laying out his case against the company in meticulous detail.
So it almost sounds like he was on like a crusade, not just pursuing an investment strategy.
Yeah, kind of.
Was he trying to be a corporate watchdog, protecting consumers?
That's one interpretation.
Yeah.
Ackman argued he was acting in the public interest,
Okay.
trying to prevent other people from falling victim to what he believed was a predatory scheme.
But his critics saw it differently, right?
Totally.
They were accusing him of market manipulation.
Right. They said he was trying to drive down the share price
Yeah.
so that he could benefit.
So his motives were questioned right from the start.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, enters Carl Icahn's stage left.
Ah, yes.
Right.
The ultimate antagonist
Right.
in the Ackman Herbalife saga.
This is getting good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carl Icahn, another billionaire investor,
Mhm.
known for his very aggressive tactics, took the opposite side of Ackman's bet.
Wow.
Bought up a bunch of Herbalife shares, publicly defended the company, and even got into this superheated argument with Ackman
Really?
live on CNBC.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Okay, so it was more than just a difference of opinion on Herbalife's business model. It was like a clash of personalities.
It was totally personal.
Ah.
Two titans of Wall Street going head to head.
Did anyone come out on top?
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
The Herbalife battle raged for years, generated countless headlines, and just kept everyone guessing.
Yeah.
Ackman eventually closed out his short position in 2018,
Okay.
though he did continue to bet against them using put options,
Oh, really?
which give him the right to sell shares at a certain price in the future.
So even in retreat, he wasn't giving up entirely.
Nope.
But I imagine this whole ordeal took a toll,
yeah.
both financially and emotionally.
For sure. It definitely wasn't a clear-cut victory for either side. Ackman took a financial hit,
Right.
and the public feuding probably tarnished both his and Icon's reputations.
Yeah.
But it's a great example of Ackman's persistence, his unwillingness to back down from a fight,
Yay.
even when the odds are stacked against him.
Okay, so we've seen Ackman navigate financial crises,
Yeah.
take on struggling companies, and wage war against a multi-level marketing giant.
Right.
Then comes 2020 and COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And Ackman pulls off this almost prophetic move.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is where his ability to really read the market
Yeah.
and to anticipate what's coming really shines.
Okay.
Ackman hedges Pershing Square's portfolio just before the pandemic hits,
Okay.
essentially betting that the market will crash.
And crash it did.
And crash it did.
But Ackman's hedge netted him a $2.6 billion profit.
That's insane.
It's incredible foresight. It's
Yeah.
like he had a crystal ball and everyone else was just caught off guard.
Total.
But then he goes on CNBC
Oh, yeah.
and delivers this really dramatic plea for a full economic shutdown.
Remember that?
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you've got this incredibly savvy investor making a fortune
Right.
by accurately predicting the market crash.
Hmm.
But on the other, you've got this almost panicked voice urging drastic action
Right.
and warning of economic catastrophe.
It was like he was speaking out of both sides of his mouth.
Yeah, it was really strange.
And then to make things even weirder,
yeah,
he turns around and invests in some of the companies that he warned could fail.
it seemed like a total contradiction.
Yeah, it was a move that baffled a lot of people.
Yeah.
Ackman defended himself,
Yeah.
saying he was trying to prevent a wider economic disaster,
Okay.
but his actions also fueled those accusations of hypocrisy
Right.
and opportunism.
It really highlights how complex and sometimes contradictory Ackman can be.
Totally.
It's like there are multiple Ackmans
Yeah.
all operating at once. So
Right.
we've got the brilliant investor, the
Mhm.
market Cassandra.
Yeah. And now we need to add another layer to this portrait,
Okay.
the philanthropist.
Right, because despite his aggressive investing style, Ackman has this long history of giving back.
Yeah.
He's a signatory of the Giving Pledge,
Okay.
committing to donate at least half of his wealth to charitable causes.
Wow.
And in 2006, he and his then-wife Karen founded the Pershing Square Foundation.
Okay, so let's talk about the foundation.
Okay.
What's their focus? What kinds of causes are we talking about?
It's actually a really wide range of causes.
Okay.
They support everything from healthcare and
Yeah.
education
Okay.
to human rights
Wow.
and even the arts.
That's great.
For example, they gave a $6.8 million grant to the Center for Jewish History,
Wow.
helping them to erase their debt
Oh, wow.
and to preserve this vital cultural resource.
So not just writing checks,
Right.
but really thinking about the impact of those donations.
Trying to make a real difference.
That's impressive. And they've also supported organizations like the Innocence Project
Oh.
and Centurion Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
These groups work to exonerate wrongly convicted individuals.
So a focus on social justice as well.
Yeah, seems so.
It's interesting how those donations kind of align with his earlier comments about Herbalife.
Yeah.
His concern about protecting people that he sees as vulnerable.
Right.
There's a through line in his thinking, right?
There is.
A desire to use his wealth to right wrongs and to fight for what he believes is just, whether it's in the financial markets or the legal system.
I think you're right.
But then there's the donation involving Coupang.
Oh, Coupang, yeah.
Right. A South Korean e-commerce company.
Yeah.
Didn't he donate over $1 billion worth of Coupang shares to his foundation?
You're absolutely right.
No.
That was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
It was a massive donation totaling $1.6 billion worth of Coupang shares,
Wow.
which he had acquired very early on.
That's just mind-blowing. It's like he took a bet on a company, it paid off big time,
Mm-hmm.
and then he turned around and used those profits to fuel his philanthropic work.
Yeah, it's a fascinating example of how Ackman leverages his financial success to amplify his impact in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of his actions,
Yeah.
this donation also sparked debate.
Oh, really?
Some people praised his generosity,
Oh.
while others questioned whether such a large donation to a single foundation could create an imbalance of power in the philanthropic world.
So even his giving generates controversy.
Yeah, it seems like wherever Ackman goes, controversy follows.
It seems like Ackman can't escape the spotlight no matter what he does.
Nope.
But there's another aspect of his philanthropy that I found really intriguing.
Okay.
His support for David Sabatini.
Ah, yes, the David Sabatini case.
Yeah.
This is where we see Ackman's willingness to go against the grain, even when it means defending someone who has been accused of serious wrongdoing.
Okay.
Sabatini was a very prominent biologist
Mm-hmm.
who was embroiled in these sexual misconduct allegations,
Right.
which led to his resignation from MIT and the revocation of his research grants.
Wow.
It was a big deal.
And Ackman stepped in to support him.
He did.
Why wade into such a controversial situation?
Ackman argued that Sabatini was the victim of a really flawed investigation
Okay.
and this cancel culture
Right.
that rushes to judgment.
Mm-hmm.
He even went so far as to help fund Sabatini's new research lab,
Wow.
a move that drew both praise and condemnation.
So he's not afraid to back someone he believes in,
Nope.
even when it means facing a public backlash?
Not at all.
It's almost like a loyalty test.
Yeah.
And Ackman just passes with flying colors.
Yeah, he's very loyal.
But how does this tie into his political views?
That's a good question.
I know he's made some pretty strong statements, especially regarding Israel.
Yeah.
Ackman's political leanings are definitely another area where he doesn't shy away from controversy.
Definitely not.
And as you mentioned, his views on Israel,
Mm-hmm.
particularly during the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, sparked some really heated reactions.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
What exactly did he do, and why was it so controversial?
Well, one of the most controversial incidents involved a letter signed by a bunch of student groups at Harvard
Okay.
criticizing Israel's actions during the conflict.
Yeah, I vaguely remember this. It caused quite a stir.
Yeah, it did.
What did the letter say?
It condemned statements from Israeli officials
Okay.
and even went so far as to call Israel an apartheid regime
Wow.
and accuse them of annihilating Palestinians.
Those are some pretty strong accusations.
Yeah, they are.
So how did Ackman respond to this?
He didn't hold back.
Really?
Ackman publicly demanded that Harvard release the names of all the students who signed the letter.
What?
He argued that companies, including his own, should have access to this information to make sure that they didn't inadvertently hire any of these students.
So essentially blacklisting these students based on their political views.
Pretty much, yeah.
That seems like a pretty extreme reaction.
It's definitely controversial.
Yeah.
Ackman defended his stance by saying that you shouldn't be able to hide behind a corporate shield when you're supporting terrorists.
Okay.
But his critics accused him of McCarthyism
Right.
and stifling free speech.
It sounds like he was trying to use his influence to silence dissenting voices.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of people saw it.
Did this incident have any lasting impact?
I think it definitely fueled the debate about the limits of free speech on college campuses.
Yeah.
And the role of powerful individuals in shaping those discussions.
Speaking of powerful individuals, Ackman also got involved with a pro-Israel WhatsApp group chat, right?
Right.
Didn't this chat include some pretty high-profile figures?
It did, yeah. This was a private group chat
Okay.
that included Israeli military leaders
Oh, wow.
and prominent U.S. business figures,
Okay.
including Ackman.
And what was the purpose of this group chat?
The group said that their goal was to change the narrative around Israel,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in U.S. public opinion.
So essentially like a coordinated PR campaign
Pretty much.
to influence how Americans view the conflict. And their activities went beyond just online discussions, right?
Yeah. They organized private screenings of a film that promotes Israel's perspective on the conflict.
Wow.
And they even reportedly tried to pressure the mayor of New York City to use police force against pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia University.
That's taking things to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So did Ackman play an active role in all of this?
Well, according to reports, he was involved in the group's activities until early 2024,
Okay.
helping to organize film screenings and participating in discussions about how to shape public perception.
So even if he wasn't the mastermind behind it, he was definitely a willing participant in this effort to influence public opinion.
Yeah, it seems that way.
It seems like Ackman's views on Israel have really played a significant role in his actions, even extending into his political affiliations.
Right.
Didn't he make a pretty dramatic shift in his political donations in 2024?
He did.
Yeah.
Ackman has historically donated primarily to Democrats.
Right.
But in 2024, he first endorsed Dean Phillips
Okay.
for the Democratic presidential nomination,
Mm-hmm.
then Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after Phillips dropped out.
So already a bit of a departure from the traditional Democratic establishment.
Yeah, for sure.
And then came the real shocker.
He announced that he wouldn't be supporting Biden
What?
because of Biden's perceived stance on Israel.
Huh.
Ackman felt that Biden wasn't sufficiently supportive.
So the Israel issue became like a deal breaker for him,
Yeah.
even when it came to supporting his own party's nominee.
Apparently.
Did he end up endorsing someone else?
He did,
Okay.
and it was a move that surprised pretty much everyone.
Okay.
In July 2024,
Yeah.
after Trump's attempted assassination,
Oh, wow.
Ackman formally endorsed him for president.
Wow. From supporting Democratic hopefuls to backing Trump,
Right.
all seemingly driven by his views on Israel.
It seems so.
It really underscores how deeply personal beliefs can influence political choices. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Ackman's investment triumphs and stumbles, his
Hmm.
philanthropic endeavors,
Hmm.
and his often controversial political stances.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has.
It has.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Ackman's willingness to challenge conventional wisdom,
Right.
to go against the grain.
Yeah.
What do you think drives that aspect of his personality?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it gets at the heart of what makes Ackman such a compelling and complex figure.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly has a very strong belief in his own judgment,
Right.
even when it contradicts the popular view.
Right.
Some might call it arrogance.
Yeah.
Others might call it conviction.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it fuels his willingness to take risks
Right.
and stand up for what he believes in,
Mm-hmm.
even when it means facing criticism or going against the crowd.
And it's not just in his investing either, right? We
Right.
see it in his philanthropy, his political choices, even his defense of David Sabatini.
Mm-hmm.
There's this consistent thread of challenging the status quo,
Yeah.
of pushing back against what he perceives as unfair or unjust.
You're absolutely right.
And I think that's something that resonates with people,
Yeah.
even those who disagree with his specific views.
I agree.
In a world where conformity is so often rewarded,
Yeah.
there's something refreshing about someone who's willing to stand up and say, I see things differently and I'm not afraid to act on my convictions.
Totally.
So a disruptor,
Mm-hmm.
a contrarian,
Huh.
a philanthropist,
Yeah.
a provocateur,
Definitely.
and yes, even a tennis
You
enthusiast.
can't forget the tennis.
Right.
It's hard to pin down exactly who Bill Ackman is,
Yeah,
but this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
it has.
And I think that's ultimately the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
To spark curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
to challenge assumptions,
Yeah.
and to leave people with more questions than answers.
Because that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And that's how we start to understand the complexities of the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well said.
Who knows, maybe in a few years, we'll need to do a whole new deep dive to uncover the latest chapter in the Ackman saga.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this story is far from over.
I agree. He's definitely one to watch.
Definitely.
Until then, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bill Ackman.
Thanks for having me.